The worst thing that can happen isn't losing someone you love. It's finding out years later that you never actually lost them at all. They were trying to hold on, and you're the one who let go. I thought Emma left me. I built an entire life believing she chose to walk away. Got married, had kids, convinced myself I'd moved on. 23 years. That's how long I carried that story around. And then one afternoon in a coffee shop in Burlington, Vermont, I found out I was wrong about all of it. Welcome, Whispering Bee family. Today we listen to one of the worst misunderstanding of life and how one letter changed everything. If you've ever wondered about the moments that slip through your fingers, the words you misread, the chances you didn't take, this one's for you. My name's Mark, and this isn't one of those stories where I'm gonna tell you everything happens for a reason or that time heals all wounds. Because sometimes time just gives you more years to be wrong about something. And sometimes you don't get closure, you get the truth, and the truth is so much worse. I need to go back to 1998. That's when this whole thing started, though I didn't know it then. I was 24, working at a bookstore in Burlington called Chapter and Verse. Not a chain, one of those independent places with creaky floors and a cat that lived there. I was supposed to be figuring out my life, but mostly I was just showing up, shelving books, and trying to make rent. Emma walked in on a Tuesday afternoon in March. I remember because it was one of those weird early spring days where it's sunny but still freezing, and she had this red scarf wrapped around her neck about 4 times. She was looking for a book, some poetry collection I'd never heard of, and I spent 20 minutes helping her find it, even though we both knew after 5 minutes it wasn't in stock. That's how it started, not with some big moment. Just her coming back the next week to pick up the book we'd ordered and then staying to talk for an hour. Then another week, another book, another conversation that went longer than it needed to. By May, we weren't even pretending she was there for books anymore. The thing about Emma was she made everything feel less heavy. I'd been going through this phase where I was taking myself way too seriously reading Kerouac, thinking I was gonna hitchhike across America or some nonsense like that. She'd listen to me talk about all this stuff, and she wouldn't make fun of me exactly, but she'd smile in this way that made me realize how ridiculous I sounded. She worked at the hospital. Not as a nurse or doctor, she was in admin, handling medical records and insurance paperwork. She'd complain about it sometimes, how she spent all day dealing with people's lives reduced to forms and codes, but she was good at it. Really good. She had this thing where she could remember details about people, not just their names, but their situations. She'd mention some patient from weeks ago and remember their kid's name, what they were worried about. We started dating officially in June. There wasn't really a moment where we decided, it just sort of became obvious. We'd spend every evening together, sometimes at my apartment, which was barely more than a room with a hot plate, sometimes at hers, which was nicer but not by much. We were both broke in that way you can be in your 20s, where it doesn't really matter because you're not thinking about the future yet. I remember one night in July, we drove out to Lake Champlain and just sat on the hood of my car watching the water. She told me she'd grown up in Connecticut, that her mom had died when she was 16, that her dad had remarried someone Emma couldn't stand. She'd left for Vermont right after high school and basically never went back. I told her about my family. My parents still lived in Massachusetts. I had a brother I barely talked to. Normal stuff. Nothing dramatic. We weren't trauma bonding or anything like that. We were just 2 people who liked being around each other. By fall, we'd moved in together. Her lease was up, mine was month to month, so we found a 1-bedroom in the old North End. It was right above a Vietnamese restaurant, and the smell of pho would come up through the floorboards every morning. We thought that was hilarious. We'd wake up already hungry. That year was good, really good. We worked, came home, cooked dinner, watched whatever was on TV. Sometimes we'd go out. There was this bar called Nectar's where we'd see bands. Mostly we just existed together and it was easy. I'm telling you all this because I need you to understand it wasn't some intense, dramatic relationship. It was normal, comfortable. The kind of thing you think is gonna last because there's no reason it shouldn't. Things started changing in the spring of 1999. Looking back, I can see it now, the signs were there. But at the time, I just thought she was stressed. She got tired more easily. She'd come home from work and fall asleep on the couch by 8. At first, I thought it was just her job. The hospital had been understaffed. She'd been pulling extra hours. She said that's what it was, so I believed her. Then she started getting these headaches. Bad ones. She'd take Advil and lie down in our bedroom with the lights off. I'd ask if she wanted me to do anything, and she'd just say no, she was fine, it would pass. In June, she started canceling plans. Little things. At first she'd say she was too tired to go out or she didn't feel up to seeing friends. Then bigger things. My brother was getting married in August and she'd been planning to come with me. 2 weeks before, she said she couldn't make it. Work thing, she said. They needed her that weekend. I was annoyed. I'm not gonna lie about that. I remember feeling like she was pulling away, like maybe she was having doubts about us. We'd been together over a year, living together for months. Maybe she was getting cold feet. That's what I told myself. I didn't push it. I went to the wedding alone. When I got back, she seemed better, more like herself. We had a good couple of weeks. I thought whatever had been bothering her had passed. But then in September, it got worse again. She was losing weight, not a lot, but enough that I noticed. Her clothes fit differently. I asked her about it once and she got defensive. Said she'd been trying to eat better, exercise more. I dropped it. The thing is, I was 25 years old and stupid. I didn't know what to look for. When someone tells you they're fine, you want to believe them. It's easier than pushing and making things uncomfortable. October 12th, 1999. I came home from work, and there was an envelope on the kitchen table. My name on it in her handwriting. I knew before I opened it. You know how you just know. Something in my chest went tight. The letter wasn't long, maybe a page. I don't remember all of it word for word, but I remember enough. Mark, I can't do this anymore. I've been trying, but it's too much. I'm so tired all the time and I can't keep pretending everything's okay when it's not. I need you to understand this isn't about you. You didn't do anything wrong, but I can't keep going like this. I'm sorry. I know this isn't fair, but I need to do this on my own. Please don't try to contact me. I need space to figure things out. Love, Emma. I read it 3 times. Then I sat at that table for probably an hour just staring at it. She wasn't home. Her stuff was still there, clothes in the closet, toothbrush in the bathroom, but she wasn't there. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to wait for her to come back to talk about it, but the letter said not to contact her, said she needed space. I called my friend Marcus. He came over, read the letter, and basically said what I was already thinking. She was breaking up with me but didn't have the guts to do it in person. That's what it looked like, right? I can't do this anymore. I need to do this on my own. That's breakup language. That's someone who's checked out of a relationship. Marcus told me I should probably clear out, give her space to get her things. He said staying there would just make it harder. So that's what I did. I packed a bag that night, crashed on Marcus's couch. The next day, I went back when I knew she'd be at work and grabbed more of my stuff. I left a note, just said I was staying with Marcus, that I'd give her time, that she could reach out when she was ready. She never did. I waited a week, then 2. I drove by the apartment a few times, saw lights on. She was there, she just didn't want to talk to me. After 3 weeks, I called her at work. The receptionist said Emma had taken a leave of absence. Medical leave, she said, but couldn't give me more details. Medical leave. That should have told me something. But I was hurt and angry, and I twisted it around in my head. Maybe she was having a breakdown. Maybe she needed space to deal with whatever she was going through without me. The letter had said she needed to figure things out alone. I tried calling her apartment. No answer. I left one message, then another, nothing. Marcus kept telling me to move on, said she'd made her choice clear. And honestly, what else was I supposed to think? She'd written me a letter ending things, then disappeared. That's what people do when they don't want you in their life anymore. By November, I couldn't stay in Burlington anymore. Everything reminded me of her. The bookstore, the apartment building, the streets we'd walked down. I felt like I was waiting for something that was never gonna happen. My dad called one night and mentioned his friend owned a construction company in New Hampshire, was looking for workers. I didn't know anything about construction, but I needed out. I needed to start over somewhere that didn't have Emma in every corner of it. I gave notice at the bookstore, packed up what little I had. Marcus helped me load everything into my car, which wasn't much. Most of the furniture in the apartment had been Emma's anyway. I left Burlington on November 28, 1999. Didn't tell Emma I was leaving because I didn't know how. Didn't have her number anymore, she'd changed it. Didn't know where she was staying. For all I knew, she was still in our apartment, and I was the one who'd left. The last thing I did before I drove out of town was drop a letter at her workplace. Just told her I was moving to New Hampshire, gave her Marcus's number in case she ever wanted to reach me. Said I hoped she figured out whatever she needed to figure out. I never heard back. New Hampshire was different. I worked construction in Portsmouth, framing houses, basic labor stuff. It was hard work, physical, and that was good. I needed something that would tire me out enough that I'd stop thinking. I lived in a room in a house with 3 other guys. We worked, came home, drank beer, watched sports. Simple, no complications. I didn't date for almost 2 years. Didn't even think about it. When people asked if I had someone, I'd just say I'd gotten out of something recently, wasn't ready yet. That was true enough. But time does this thing where it keeps moving whether you're ready or not. By 2002, I'd worked my way up a bit. I was doing Finnish carpentry, making decent money. I'd moved into my own place, a studio apartment near the water. I started going out more, meeting people. That's when I met Lisa. She was a teacher at one of the elementary schools in town. We met at a mutual friend's barbecue. She was easy to talk to, funny, straightforward, no drama. After Emma, I think I needed that someone who said what they meant, who didn't disappear. We dated for a year before we moved in together. Got married in 2004. It was a small wedding, just family and close friends. My parents were happy. Lisa's parents were happy. Everyone kept saying how good we were together, how natural it seemed. And it was good. I'm not gonna pretend it wasn't. Lisa was a good person. Kind, stable, reliable. We built a life together, bought a house in 2005, had our first kid, Lily, in 2006, then Jake in 2008. I loved my kids. I loved Lisa. But if I'm being honest, and I might as well be honest now, there was always this thing I couldn't shake. This feeling that I'd left something unfinished. Not that I wanted to go back to Emma, but that I'd never really understood what happened. Why she'd ended things like that. Why she'd just cut me out completely. Lisa knew about Emma. Not everything, but the broad strokes. She knew I'd had a serious girlfriend in Vermont, that it had ended badly, that I'd moved to New Hampshire to start over. She never pushed me about it. I think she could tell it was something I didn't want to dig into. The years went by. The kids grew up. I went to their soccer games, helped with homework, fixed things around the house. Normal life. Good life, even. But every once in a while, something would remind me. I'd hear a song Emma used to like, or I'd smell something that reminded me of that apartment above the pho restaurant, and I'd get this feeling in my chest. This ache. And then I'd push it down and keep going. In September 2022, my company sent me to Burlington for a job. We were bidding on a renovation project for some old building downtown. Turned out, they needed someone with Finnish carpentry experience to assess the interior work. I hadn't been back to Burlington in 23 years. I'd driven past it a few times on the highway but never stopped. Never had a reason to. The job was supposed to take 3 days. I drove up on a Monday, planning to check out the site, meet with the client, put together an estimate, and head home by Wednesday. I stayed at a hotel near the waterfront. The city had changed a lot, new buildings, different shops, but the bones of it were the same. Church Street was still there, busy with people. The lake looked the same. On Tuesday afternoon, after I'd finished at the job site, I had a few hours to kill before dinner with the client. I started walking around downtown, just killing time. And I don't know what made me do it, but I walked over to where the bookstore used to be. It wasn't there anymore. The whole building was different, some fancy coffee shop now. I stood there looking at it for a while, trying to remember exactly where the register had been, where the poetry section was. Then I went inside, figured I'd get a coffee, sit for a bit. And that's when I saw her. Not Emma, Melissa. Melissa had been Emma's best friend. They'd met at the hospital. Melissa was a nurse in the ER. I'd met her a bunch of times when Emma and I were together. We'd all gone out for drinks once, had dinner at their place a couple times. She was sitting at a table near the window, working on a laptop. She looked older, obviously we all were, but I recognized her immediately. I almost left, almost just walked back out. But she looked up and saw me, and her face did this shocked, confused thing, and I knew she recognized me too. She said my name, Mark. I went over to her table. We did that awkward thing where you're not sure if you're supposed to hug or shake hands or what. We ended up just standing there. She asked what I was doing in Burlington. I told her about the job, asked her if she still lived here. She said yeah, still working at the hospital, still in the same apartment actually. We sat down, ordered coffee, did the whole catching up thing. She'd gotten married, divorced, married again, had 2 kids, showed me pictures on her phone. Then she asked about me. I told her about New Hampshire, about Lisa and the kids, showed her pictures too. We talked for maybe 20 minutes like that, normal stuff, safe stuff. But then there was this pause, and I could see her deciding something. She got this look on her face like she was trying to figure out what to say. And then she asked, "Did you ever find out what happened with Emma?" My stomach dropped. I said something like, "What do you mean?" She ended things, she left. Melissa's face changed. "Mark, Emma didn't leave you." I didn't understand what she was saying at first. I said, "She wrote me a letter. She said she couldn't do it anymore, that she needed to do it on her own." Melissa just stared at me. Then she said, "She wasn't talking about your relationship." The coffee shop got really loud all of a sudden, or maybe it was just my ears. I couldn't process what she was saying. I asked her to explain. She took a breath and said, "Emma was sick, Mark. She'd been sick for months. She was trying to tell you, but she didn't know how." The whole room tilted. I remember putting my hands flat on the table to steady myself. Melissa started talking, and I just listened. Emma had started feeling off in early 1999. Tired all the time, headaches, losing weight. She'd gone to the doctor in May. They ran tests but didn't find anything conclusive. Told her it was probably stress, maybe anemia. Gave her some vitamins and sent her home. But it kept getting worse. By summer, she was having trouble concentrating at work. The headaches were constant. She went back to the doctor in July, more tests, still nothing clear. In August, right around the time she'd backed out of going to my brother's wedding, she'd finally seen a specialist. They did more extensive tests. MRI, blood work, the whole thing. That's when they found it. Melissa said it quietly. Brain tumor, glioblastoma. I felt like I couldn't breathe. She kept talking, said Emma was devastated, didn't know how to tell me, kept putting it off because she was scared and overwhelmed and didn't want it to be real. The doctors told her it was aggressive. They could try treatment, surgery, radiation, chemo, but the prognosis wasn't good. Maybe a year, they said, maybe less. Emma had been trying to figure out how to tell me all of September. She'd started the letter a dozen times, Melissa said. She was trying to explain that she was sick, that she couldn't keep pretending everything was normal, that she needed to focus on treatment. But the way she wrote it, "I can't do this anymore. I need to do this on my own," I'd read it completely wrong. Melissa told me everything, walked me through the whole timeline. After Emma wrote the letter, she'd gone to stay with Melissa for a few days. She was waiting for me to come home so they could talk about it in person. But when she got back to the apartment, I was gone. My stuff was gone. She found my note, the one where I said I was staying at Marcus's, that I'd give her time and space. Emma thought I'd read the letter and understood she was sick. She thought I was giving her space to deal with the medical stuff. She tried calling Marcus's place a few times, but kept missing me. Then she started treatment. Surgery first, they removed what they could, but it wasn't much. Then radiation. She was in and out of the hospital constantly. Melissa said she was trying to get in touch with me, but by then I'd changed my schedule, was barely at Marcus's place because I was working doubles to save money to leave town. By the time I left Burlington in late November, Emma was in bad shape. The treatment was destroying her. She was weak, losing her hair, could barely get out of bed most days. Melissa said Emma asked about me constantly, asked if I'd called if I'd come by. Melissa didn't know what to tell her. She tried calling the bookstore, but I'd already quit. She didn't know where I'd gone. When Emma found out I'd left town, that I'd actually left Burlington, she was crushed. Melissa said that's when Emma really started to believe I'd walked away on purpose, that I'd gotten her letter about being sick and decided it was too much. I was sitting there in this coffee shop trying to breathe, and all I could think was, she died thinking I abandoned her. Melissa said Emma died on March 3rd, 2000, 4 months after I left. She'd been in hospice for the last few weeks. Her dad came up from Connecticut, stayed with her at the end. Melissa was there too. She said Emma talked about me even then, wondered where I was, if I was okay, said she hoped I was happy. I don't remember what I said to Melissa after that. I think I just sat there. She was crying. I might have been too, I don't know. She told me she'd tried to find me after Emma died. Called around, asked people, but nobody knew where I'd gone. This was before social media, before you could just look someone up online. I'd moved to New Hampshire and basically disappeared. She said she thought about me over the years. Wondered if I knew, if anyone had told me. She'd assumed someone must have, that eventually I'd found out, and that's why I never came back. But nobody had told me, because nobody knew where I was, and I'd convinced myself Emma had left me, so I never asked about her. I just moved on. I asked Melissa why she'd never tried harder to find me. I didn't mean it in an angry way, I just needed to understand. She said I was 26 and dealing with my best friend dying. I didn't know what to do, and honestly, Mark, I was angry at you. Emma kept asking about you, and you weren't there, and I thought you'd left on purpose. I thought you'd gotten scared and bylaid. She said it wasn't until years later, when she really thought about it, that she realized I probably didn't know. That something had gotten mixed up, but by then it felt too late to track me down and tell me. We sat there for a long time. The coffee shop closed around us, they had to ask us to leave. We stood outside on the street and Melissa said, "I'm sorry. I should have tried harder to find you back then. Emma would have wanted you to know." I told her it wasn't her fault, and it wasn't. It was just this terrible, stupid misunderstanding that got compounded by bad timing and missed connections, and two people who didn't communicate well enough when it mattered. I drove back to New Hampshire the next day, told the client something came up, I had to leave early. They were fine with it, I'd already given them the estimate anyway. The whole drive, I kept thinking about Emma in that hospital room, wondering where I was, thinking I'd left her when she needed me most. I kept thinking about that letter, how I'd read, "I can't do this anymore," and heard, "I'm breaking up with you," instead of "I'm dying and I'm scared." How different would things have been if I'd just asked her directly? If I'd gone to the apartment and waited for her instead of packing my stuff and leaving? Or if I'd pushed harder when she was getting sick? If I'd made her see a doctor earlier, not just accepted her excuses? But I didn't. I was 25 and self-absorbed, and I didn't see what was right in front of me. When I got home, Lisa knew something was wrong. I told her I needed a few days to process something. She didn't push. She's good like that. I spent a week barely sleeping. I'd lie in bed next to Lisa and just stare at the ceiling, replaying every conversation I'd had with Emma that last year. Every time she said she was tired. Every time she canceled plans. Every sign I'd missed. The worst part was realizing she'd been trying to tell me. In her own way, she'd been asking for help. And I'd been too wrapped up in my own feelings to see it. I finally told Lisa everything about 2 weeks after I got back. We were sitting in the kitchen after the kids had gone to bed, and she asked me directly what was going on. So I told her. About Emma, about the letter, about Melissa, about everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "That's a lot to carry." I said, "Yeah." She asked if I still had feelings for Emma. I told her honestly I didn't know how to answer that. It's been 23 years. Emma had been dead for 22 of them, but finding out the truth had cracked something open in me that I didn't know was there. Lisa said, "You're allowed to grieve this. You're allowed to be upset." That's when I lost it, just completely broke down. Because I hadn't let myself grieve Emma back then, I'd been too angry, too hurt. I'd convinced myself she'd chosen to leave me, so I didn't get to be sad about it. I had to just move on. But now I knew the truth, and the grief hit me all at once. 23 years of it. Lisa held me while I cried, didn't try to fix it or make it better, just let me feel it. It's been about 6 months since I found out. I'm still figuring out how to live with it. Some days are okay. I go to work, come home, have dinner with my family. I watch my kids do their homework and argue about whose turn it is to take out the trash, and I feel normal. Other days, I'll be doing something completely random, fixing a cabinet or driving to the hardware store, and I'll just get hit with this wave of it. The weight of knowing Emma spent her last months thinking I'd abandoned her, that she died believing I couldn't handle her being sick. I think about her sometimes at night, wonder what her life would have been like if she'd lived, if we would have stayed together, if we would have had kids, if we'd have made it. But that's useless thinking. She didn't live, and I wasn't there. Lisa's been patient with me, more patient than I probably deserve. She knows this isn't about wanting Emma back. You can't want back someone who's been gone for over 20 years. It's about living with the fact that I failed someone I loved when they needed me most, even if I didn't know it at the time. I went to visit Emma's grave last month. Melissa told me where it was, small cemetery just outside Burlington. Her dad had buried her there. I brought flowers, didn't really know what else to do, stood there for a while looking at her name on the stone. Emma Grace Wheeler, 1974 to 2000. 26 years old. She was 26 when she died. I didn't say anything out loud, didn't feel right. What was I gonna say? Sorry I misunderstood, sorry I left, sorry I built a whole life while you were in the ground. I just stood there until it started getting dark, then I left. I don't have some neat conclusion to this. I don't have a lesson about communication or paying attention or not making assumptions. All I have is this. Sometimes you make a mistake and you don't get to fix it. You just have to live with it. I misread a letter. I left town. I built a life somewhere else. And by the time I found out the truth, there was nothing I could do about it. Emma was gone, had been gone for over 2 decades. People say time heals, but I don't think that's true. I think time just gives you more distance from the thing that broke you. And distance isn't the same as healing. I still love my family. I still show up for my kids. I still make Lisa breakfast on Sundays and fix the leaky faucet and pay the bills. Life keeps going. But there's this thing I carry now. This knowledge that I got it wrong when it mattered most. And I'm gonna carry that for the rest of my life. Because the worst thing that can happen isn't losing someone you love. It's finding out you never lost them at all. They were reaching for you, and you just didn't see it.